Specflow tutorial part 9 feature context. In a part 8 we have learned about the context injection. So in this session we are going to learn about what is a feature context and the utilization of the feature context. So let me start this session. So when we guys are talking about the feature context, the main purpose of the feature context is to get the information related to a feature. So let me flip to Visual Studio to understand with an example. We have a Specflow session project, and this Specflow session project we have created in the previous sessions of this particular Specflow. In this Specflow session project, we have a NuGet package related to a Specflow NUnit, as well as a test.sdk and an NUnit 3 test adapter, as well as we have added a feature file. We call it as an event registration feature file, and in this event registration feature file right now we have added two scenarios. One is register event with valid information, and then there is a register user. And all these steps which we have written it here have a corresponding step definitions. Let's go to definition, and we have an event class, as well as we have another class. We call it as a user information class, and this user information class is having another step. We call it as a I display user information. So when we guys are talking about a feature context, a feature context helps to get the information related to a feature name. It helps to provide the tags. So whenever we guys are talking about the tags, tag is nothing but a categorization of the scenarios of the feature files. Right now, whenever you want to declare any of the tag, then what you need to do is you need to use a @ and then the name of that particular tag. If you want to declare a multiple tags, then you need to provide a space, @ and then the name of that particular tag. So this feature context help to get the information related to features, and here we can get the name of the feature file. We can get the all tags, those are present at the feature level, as well as we can get the information related to a description as well. So when we guys are talking about a feature context is an example of the context injection. In the previous session we have learned about the context injection. So context injection is nothing but creating an object of the class and injecting in the constructor wherever we need. And if you talk about this feature context, Specflow provides a feature context class, and whenever you want the object of that particular class, then we can use a context injection. So with the help of the context injection, we can get the object of that particular class. So take an example of right now we have this event class, and you want to get the object of that particular feature context. Then what you need to do is we need to use that particular class here in the constructor of the class as a parameter. So let's have this feature context. Feature context is a class which is present inside the tech.specflow. So use this feature context and provide the name of that one as well. So whenever the Specflow see the feature context as a parameter of the event constructor class, then automatically Specflow is going to create the object of this feature context and going to inject that particular object here in this feature context as a parameter, and then we can use this particular object to access the information. So let's have this. So we can say console.writeLine, and if we use the information fc dot, and we can see we have a different methods and properties. Those are available with us with the help of the object of this feature context. We have a binding culture, feature container, feature information. So take an example of we want to get the name of that particular feature, then we need to use a feature info dot. We can see we have a different properties related to a feature of info. One is a description. It provides the description of this particular feature. So this is the description. If you want to access it, then we can use this particular property related to description. The folder path. So this folder path property is going to provide the path of that particular folder where this event registration.feature file exists. And if you talk about the others, we have a different properties. Another property is the tags. If you want to get all the tags, those are available at the feature level. So these tags, if you want to access it, then we can use this particular property related to a tags. And if you want to get the title, we can use it. So let's use a title here to get the information related to a title of the feature file. And if we run this in a particular debug mode, so let's go it here in the test explorer, and let's come it here and right click on this, say debug. We can see the control has reached it here in this class in the constructor, and if we hover a mouse here on this feature context object, we can see we able to get the object of this feature context with the help of the context injection, or we can say with the help of the dependency injection we able to get the object of the feature context. Whenever the Specflow see a class as a parameter in the constructor and that class is tagged with the binding keyword, then it is going to create the object of that particular class and inject it into that particular parameter. Like here it did it, we are getting the object of the feature context. And if we hover a mouse here, we can see we are getting the title of this particular feature file. Right now this event registration is a title of this particular feature file. So let's click on continue, and if we commit here, and we can see we are getting the title of that particular feature file, which is the event registration. With the help of the context injection, we can get the object of the feature context class, as well as if you want to get the object in a before feature, after feature, before scenario, after scenario, before step, after step hooks, we can get it the object of the feature context class as well. So let me go it here in this project, and this project is having a class, we call it as a Specflow hooks class. This Specflow hooks class is having a different hooks related to a before test run, after test run. We have the hooks related to features as well, and we have hooks for a scenarios, before scenario, after scenario, before step, and the after step. So these are the different hooks available in the Specflow, and we can use these hooks to get the object of the feature context class. So whenever you want the object of the feature context, then we can add the feature context as a parameter to the before feature, after feature, scenarios, as well as the steps. But we cannot get the object of the feature context by adding a parameter in this before test run and the after test run, because before test run and an after test run related to a whole execution. Before test run and the after test run both are related to a execution of the whole suite. Specflow executes this before test run before executing any of the feature files. So that is the reason behind it. We cannot have a feature context in this before test run and in this after test run. So let's go and add a feature context. We can add a feature context here in this before scenario, and if we see feature context, let's have this FC, and if we say console.writeLine, can have this write line and use this FC object, use dot, and we can see we have a different properties, feature info dot, and we can use the description to have the description of that particular feature files. So if we go it here in the test explorer, right click and say run, and it is going to display a description for that particular feature file. And if we commit here, we can see we are getting the description related to a feature file. This helps to check the functionality of the event registration. If we go it here in this event registration, this is the description which we are getting it with the help of this particular feature or feature context. So we can access the feature context during the feature execution. We can access in the before feature, after feature, before scenario, after scenario, and a before step and the after step hooks. Feature contexts help you to store values in a dictionary between the scenarios. So this is the most important concept whenever we are using a feature context. So feature context is going to represent a one feature file. A one feature file can have a multiple scenarios, and if you want to pass a one value which you have saved it in the first scenario and you want to pass that value to the another scenario, to the next scenario, then we can use this feature context. Let's flip to the Visual Studio to understand with an example. And if we see it here, event registration feature is having two scenarios. One is a register event with valid information, and another is a register user. So what we want to do is we want to save some value here in this scenario, and we want to access that particular value here in this second scenario. Let's add a value here in this step. Let's go to definition, and what we need a feature context. And if we see it here, this feature context, we need to save this feature context. So let's have this feature context here. You can say feature context and FC, and let's assign this feature context is equal to FC. So now we have assigned the parameterized value, or you can say the parameterized object to the feature context to the class level feature context reference variable. Now we can use this FC to save the information. If you want to save some information to the feature context, then you need to use an object to the feature context, square brackets, and we can see we need to pass a key here. So let's pass a key here, we can say a user information is equal to, and then we can assign the values to this particular key, which is a user information. We can say easy automation testing.com. We have saved the value, which is easyautomationtesting.com, with the help of this user information key. Now we want to go to here in this registered user scenario, and we want to access the value which we have saved it in this particular step. Then what we need to do is, let's go here in this I display user information, right click, go to definition, and if we commit here, let's have this feature context. We can say FC, and let's save it at the class level as well. Feature context, again we can give the name as FC, assign the reference variable FC is equal to FC. And now if we commit here, let's use this console.writeLine object of the feature context, and if you want to get the values, then what we need to do is you need to provide the key. And what was the key? We had the key is the user information. So this user information is present here. We have saved the value with the key, which is the user information, and we are using that particular key here to fetch the values from this feature context. So let's have a debug point here in this I display user information, as well as if we go it here, we can have a debug point here as well. So let's do one thing, select both the scenarios and click on debug. Control has reached it here in this event class. Let's remove this debug point, click on continue. We have reached it here. So this FC is the object of the feature context. Now we are going to save the information, which is this easyautomationtesting.com, with the help of this user information. So let's do one thing, let's click on continue, and now we have reached it here. So we are using a feature context, and we are trying to get the values of this user information. Let's have select this, right click, go to add watch, and we can see we are getting the value which we have saved it here in this event class with the information. So we can say whatever the value which you are saving it here with the feature context, that value you can access it in the remaining scenarios. Right now we are accessing that particular value here in this second scenario. If we have a multiple scenarios, then you can access those values in the remaining scenarios as well. So feature context is going to represent a complete feature. So whatever the information you are saving it here, you can access it in the remaining scenarios. So this helps you to organize your step definitions better than using a private variables in the step definitions classes. So feature info class helps to get the information related to a features. If you talk about the additional resources, I have already created one course that is on the Udemy, and that course help you to learn a professional automation framework creation with the C#, Specflow, and the Selenium. So that course is going to help us to create an enterprise level automation framework with the different design patterns, builder design pattern, singleton design pattern, a strategy design pattern, and dependency injection design pattern. So this is the one of the most important design pattern where we guys are not creating the object with the help of the new operator. So this dependency injection design pattern helping us to create the object without utilizing a new operator. Another is a IOC design pattern. So these all design patterns helping a automation framework which we have created in this Udemy course, making a more robust and a more reliable as well. So this course help us to build the thought pattern for designing and targeting the framework, and this course also help us to build the capabilities to understand any complex code base. So after completing the course, you will able to create your own professional level automation framework. After completing this course, you will able to create your own professional level automation framework from the scratch, not with this language but with the other languages as well, because a framework development is not dependent on any of the language. So framework code also uploaded with the course. If you want, you can enroll that particular course on the Udemy. Please subscribe this channel to have the notifications of a new automation related sessions.